morning, everyone. Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. Well, it's certainly been an exciting weekend. As I predicted, last weekend we saw some tremendous moves for Bitcoin, and we've certainly seen it this weekend. However, altcoins are coming up as well. Ethereum is nearing 1,000, and a lot of our other favorite altcoins are coming back up. So what does this mean? Does this mean that BTC dominance is going to start coming down, or is it just a temporary pump before Bitcoin goes back up? So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to cover what's going on with Bitcoin, which went up as high as 34,600 before now taking a little breather. I'll also talk about that kind of mini flash crash that happened yesterday where Bitcoin went down $3,000 and all of a sudden came right back up. What was the deal with that? And of course, let's take a look at Ethereum and some of the other altcoins that are pumping today. So thanks for tuning in. As always, smash up the like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and make sure you hit that notification bell. I have these streams at 11 a.m. Weekdays, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, but I had it yesterday and today because I couldn't help myself, because it is just too darn exciting right now in the crypto world. All right, let's get started. Let's go to, let me change my screen here. Here we go. All right, so Bitcoin is slightly under $33,000. So you can see that there is some weakness, right? But why is that? I think the weakness is actually because a lot of people are putting their money into something like Ethereum. But before I get to the charts, let's look at some of these other things that's been happening over the weekend. Now, yesterday's stream was explosive. I had over 2,300 people tuning in. And, one of the things I theorized yesterday was that why are we seeing all these pumps over the weekend, right? Like the last week and this week, we've seen Bitcoin go up like $4,000. And I was theorizing it's due to PayPal. That PayPal needed to replenish their stock. And, what better time than a weekend, right? They buy whatever they need to for the upcoming week. So yesterday, this kind of proves that $1 billion worth of Bitcoin leaves Coinbase, just out of the blue. And no one knows why. People are just speculating. It has to be institutions, right? And this kind of shows you how much buying is going behind the scenes. Now, granted, PayPal, like other institutions, are probably buying OTC. But guess what happens when OTC dries up? It goes to the exchanges. It's pulled from the exchanges, right? So it's probably PayPal is replenishing. It doesn't have to be just PayPal, Square, Robinhood, anyone else that actually needs to replenish their supply. They're probably buying up as much as they can over the counter, but then there's nothing left. So guess where it's coming from? Probably Coinbase. So this kind of shows you how much buying is going on behind the scenes right now, right? We don't have all the data, but when you're adding up pieces here and there, you realize, man, this gravy train is not stopping anytime soon. There's just way too much buying going on right now in terms of everyone trying to FOMO in, and really there's no supply. There's no supply like this. I showed this yesterday, but I think this is a good reminder that, there's a set number of Bitcoins being produced per day. And Grayscale alone, this is not counting PayPal, not counting Square, Robinhood, or anyone else, just Grayscale themselves bought around triple the amount that's being mined. And this number will only go up. Next month, I have no doubt this is probably at 90,000. And then a month after that, 120,000. This will only increase, but guess what? This stays the same. So even if you have the supply staying the same, but demand keeps going up, guess what happens? The price is going to keep going, right? So again, this is happening behind the scenes, which is why Bitcoin keeps pushing higher and higher and higher and higher. And then this came out yesterday. Data shows that the number of illiquid Bitcoin supply, the ones that actually circulating within exchanges, is only about 4.2 million out of the 18.5 million. Okay, so 78% of that is illiquid, meaning that it's been taken off exchanges, held in cold wallets, and custody services on your private, your private hardware wallet, right? So there's only 4.2 that's constantly circulating, and most of that is due to the exchanges, right? They have to keep a certain supply, so they're moving things in or out, and they're trading among each other. But you think about it, this 4.2 million is really nothing when, there's such a supply squeeze right now. There's just so much, this number, like I mentioned, as Grayscale increases 90, 120, 150, 200 per month, it's just going to eat away at this. There's just no more sellers. OTC market is simply going to dry up. So this is only going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And you might be thinking, well, what happens if it dries up and there's none? Well, that's when Bitcoin will be above $1 million each, because no one is selling and the supply is completely gone, right? Now, because of Bitcoin's pump, and I've showed you guys this before, so this is a different, I usually show Asset Dash, but someone introduced me this to companiesmarketcap.com, companiesmarketcap.com. So you could add in gold and silver in here. So besides the world's largest companies, you could also put in precious metals. So gold is at number one at 12 trillion, I was going to say billion, 12 trillion. But silver is only 1.5 trillion. So silver is the sixth largest market cap product, I guess. If you look at a company, there's only 5 companies worth more. I mean, actually, only 4 companies worth more than silver. But Bitcoin is climbing up very, very, very fast. Bitcoin already broke and surpassed Berkshire Hathaway, and I do have a very interesting clip to show you guys about that. Also, it is coming up to Alibaba, coming up to Tesla, Tencent, Facebook, Alphabet, and it's just going to keep rising and rising and rising. It's interesting to see that Bitcoin is about half of the world's silver supply already, right? This is not just precious like silver bars. This is actually taking into account all the paper silver out there too, right? So that's a lot of ETFs and derivatives and all that stuff. So all silver, everything, paper and silver and silver bars, only 1.5 trillion, and Bitcoin is about to pass that. So it has to double, about what, 60, probably 75,000. When Bitcoin hits 75,000, it will surpass all of silver. So think about that. Think about that. Lost, Donnie, thank you for a super chat. Lost 1 Bitcoin in a DeFi hype, but now at 100K, something I have never experienced before. Hodl. So you're saying you lost 1 Bitcoin, unfortunately, in DeFi, but you have, in total, you have over 100,000 in your portfolio. You're doing it right. Congratulations. A lot of people are hodling. They're buying and hodling, and now they're reaping the benefits, and I don't think it's going to stop. I don't think it's going to stop. This number, this overall market cap, this individual number for Bitcoin will only go up from here. I just got done talking about the supply squeeze and how basically the price will go up. There's just not enough supply to meet demands. That's ultimately what it is right now. All right. So before I get into Ethereum and some of these altcoins, I do want to show you guys one last clip. I talked about Berkshire Hathaway and Bitcoin, right? And this clip is perfect. It's perfect because this came out in 2018, right? Right before, or right after, I should say, right after the Bitcoin bubble burst in 2017, right? So someone actually called in and asked, Warren Buffett, hey, why do you keep insisting that Bitcoin is a bubble, right? When it almost surpassed the market cap of Berkshire Hathaway and some of the largest banks on earth, and you have admitted that you don't know much about tech. So why do you insist it's a bubble? Now, what's interesting about this is some of the other CNBC analysts have been like covering about how they're kind of dumbfounded. They don't know how to answer. Warren Buffett didn't know how to answer this. He's he's stumbling, and he actually contradicts himself halfway through, and then he realizes it, and then he has to like course correct. So it kind of shows you Warren Buffett really doesn't have a good reason why he doesn't like Bitcoin, other than he doesn't understand it. That's really it. Like, there is actually no fundamental thing that he actually says is bad about it, other than it's a non-producing asset. But then he makes example about a non-producing asset that actually turned out to be one of the greatest buys in the history of mankind. But he mentions that as an example. All right, so let me just show you guys. Let me get ready here, because this is a good watch. Only a few minutes, but it kind of shows you, one of the biggest naysayers of Bitcoin doesn't really know why he doesn't like Bitcoin.
It comes from Vlad Koptev in Ukraine. He says, capitalization of cryptocurrencies approached that of Berkshire and Apple last year. And clearly, the idea behind crypto will affect conventional banking groups where Berkshire is a shareholder. You always say you didn't go into too much detail to obtain an understanding on cryptocurrencies. So what factors caused you to say that it's a bubble?
Well, generally non-productive assets remain, if you had bought gold at the time of Christ and you figure the compound rate on it, it may be a couple tenths of 1%. It essentially is not going to deliver anything other than supposed scarcity, because you can only mine so many. But so what? I mean, what does it produce itself? The check is a wonderful idea. Just imagine how the world would.
Okay, real quick. I like Warren Buffett. Like, the first thing you can think of is like, if you bought gold since the time of Christ, as if anyone was buying gold at the time of Christ that's still around. He's saying that so naturally, like there are people that are thousands of years old around. Like, how do you come up with that example? But anyways, I think he gets himself trapped, because I don't think he wants to actually say anything negative about gold, but he can't think of any example, so he has to. The first thing he can think of is gold, a non-producing asset. But then, he gets away from this analogy because he realizes that he doesn't want to piss off all the gold bugs either. All right, let's continue.
Be without being able to write checks or have wire transfer of funds, but it doesn't make the check intrinsically itself worth a lot of money. And if you said you can't use something called check with a little piece of paper, you'd do something else to transfer money. I think that anytime you buy a non-productive asset, you are counting on somebody else later on to buy a non-productive asset because they think they can sell it to somebody for more money. And it's been tried with tulips, and it's been tried with various things over time, and it does come to a bad ending.
Okay, so this is where he contradicts himself, right? So he's like, non-producing assets always ends up bad. So the only thing he could think of is a tulip craze, right? But listen to what he says next. He actually makes example about a non-producing asset that turned out to be one of the greatest purchases ever in history, and he contradicts himself, and he doesn't know what to say afterwards.
You have a hard time. You can think of raw land. I mean, the Louisiana purchase was, say, $15 million for 800,000 or so square miles of land. In fact, you're sitting on land that came with the Louisiana purchase, and so what we paid $20 a square mile, and 640 acres in a square mile, and you're down to 3 cents or something. So that was a pretty good purchase of what was then a non-productive property, but it depended.
You see? He 100% contradicted himself. He's like, non-productive purchases or assets always ends up bad. And then he goes to a Louisiana purchase. Again, was any of us around when Louisiana purchase was made? He talks about how 800,000 acres or square miles was bought for $15 million. Probably one of the best purchases ever in history for the United States. And the United States is not trying to sell it to anyone, but it turned out to be one of the best purchases you could have made, right? So then he contradicts. He's like, oh, I guess that's a pretty good purchase. So he basically just ruined his own argument about non-productive assets being a horrible buy. He just contradicted himself 100%. And that's not all. He continues on.
But it's very hard. You can buy stamps. Bill Gross got collected a wonderful stamp collection, and it sold for more money in the end. But it's dependent on somebody else wanting to buy, hoping they will sell it for more money, and so on. And in the end, you make your money out of productive assets. If you buy a farm, you try to estimate what the crops, what amount per acre of soybeans or corn or whatever may be raised, and how much you have to pay the farmer that farms it for you, and what your taxes will be, and various things. And you make a conclusion based on what the asset itself will produce over time. And that's an investment. When you buy something because you're hoping tomorrow morning you're going to wake up, and the price will be higher, you need more people coming into it than are leaving. And you can get that, and it will feed on itself for a while, and sometimes for a long while, and sometimes to extraordinary numbers. But in the end, they come to bad endings, and cryptocurrencies will come to bad endings. And along with the fact that there's nothing being produced in the way of value from the asset, that you also have the problem that it draws in a lot of charlatans and that sort of thing.
Oh God, this ended with that. It draws in a lot of charlatans and stuff. This whole thing about, you need someone else to come in and buy it higher than you to make a profit. That's anything. I don't get it. Even stocks is like that. If no one thinks that the stock is going to be higher or going to go higher, then no one would buy it. It doesn't matter what the company does. It doesn't matter if the company makes billions of dollars per quarter or whatever. You're gonna make a profit because someone else is gonna pick up that stock at a higher price than you. That's the expectation. You mentioned stamp collecting. There are some people that have made a lot of money with stamp collecting. Same thing with any kind of collecting. Art collecting. Art is a non-producing asset. Who wouldn't want to own any Picassos or the Mona Lisa? They're priceless. Just like his example of land. Land are considered non-producing assets. Like Louisiana Purchase. What about Alaska being bought from Russia? These are some of the best purchases ever in history, right? So this whole thing doesn't make any sense at all. And I hate to pick on Warren Buffett. Who am I to argue with a guy that's worth like $80 billion? I know that. But I'm just trying to point out that he clearly doesn't really understand Bitcoin and crypto at all. He really has no fundamental basis why he dislikes it, other than he says it's a non-producing asset. But pretty much everything out there now in the digital world is a non-producing asset. If you invest in Microsoft, right, you're investing in code. Code doesn't produce eggs on a farm. Like, he always goes back to this thing about farms, right? None of the companies that he's invested in are farmers. So I don't even know why he even goes back to that. Every company he talks about he invests in banks, and now Apple, and he realized he got in Apple so late, but now he's all in on Apple. It's like 50% of Berkshire money is in Apple because he doesn't know what else to invest in, right? Had he put in just a small amount in Bitcoin and just said, I don't understand it, but I'm going to hold some, that would have doubled his wealth already. Not that he needs to double his wealth, but it would have. But anyways, just want to show you guys that. I thought it was pretty hilarious. And while showing that, Bitcoin came back up in a big way, so that's good. Guess that clip actually did work. All right. Next, let's talk about Ethereum and some of the altcoins. This article kind of sums it up. Ethereum surges up above 850 as hash rate hits all-time high. And if you look at Ethereum right now, it's a little bit higher than that. It's closing in at 1,000, and it has not been at 1,000 for a very, very long time. So looking at CMC, it's sitting right around 940, probably went up a little bit to 950 now, right? Within the last 24 hour, it has gone up 22%. And it's not just Ethereum, but they did go up the most. You look at Litecoin, which I talked about, 15%, and then I'm going to skip over Bcash there. Chainlink is up 10%, you know, some of these guys. VeChain up 25%. Dogecoin, it says up 22%. Really, it is, but it fell down hard from its peak. So a lot of people are asking about why Dogecoin pump up. But ultimately, why are some of these altcoins pumping up? Is there any fundamental thing that happened last night to today? No, nothing. Nothing was announced. Nothing was declared. It's not like Ethereum just, you know, went all in on proof of stake already, or there's something magical that happened. Nothing. Right now, what you're seeing is Bitcoin is consolidating, at least for a half day. And some of that money is flowing into altcoins. So this generally happens, but we haven't seen it for a long time. We haven't seen a long time, and that's because Bitcoin keeps just going up and up and up and up, right? So, I mean, just look at this trajectory. Just up and up and up and up. And that is why we haven't seen it much for altcoins, why they haven't come up. So, you know, when Bitcoin was stuck under 19.5, some of the altcoins were doing pretty good too, but that's because it was stuck there for about 22 days. Then when Bitcoin went up and jumped to 24.2, you know, it was only there for 8 days. So altcoins didn't have a chance to come up. Then when we jumped up to 27.2, we were there for less than 3 days. Then we jumped up to 29.2, and we were there for less than 2 days, right? So now we're above $33,000, and we went to as high as $34,000. So it really depends on what Bitcoin is going to do next, right? So I can draw a line. It seems like Bitcoin's next resistance is about 34.5. Because it broke through a couple times and it couldn't hold. So I'm going to draw one here, 34.5. So what's happening is this, and I guess this is the new upper and lower for Bitcoin, right? But keep in mind, we've only been here for less than 1 day, right? And if you're looking at what has happened before, in terms of Bitcoin breaking through these resistances, they're accelerating from 22 days to 8 days to 2 days to 2 days, and now it may be 1 day, right? So Donnie just asked, should you convert BTC to ETH short term? The answer is no. That's how you go get burned. Because when the ETH rally is over and Bitcoin goes again, then you would have lost out more. Right? So this is one of those situations where having some alt helps your portfolio. But before, I would say 50, 25, 25. That's what I used to say. 50% in Bitcoin, 25% in big caps, 25% in small caps. Right now, small caps, I would say ignore completely because they are not moving until full-blown altcoin season. However, I do think that if you do have a portfolio allocation about 75 Bitcoin, 25% in big caps, that will help. That will help you both ways. If Bitcoin continues to pump up, right, your BTC value still goes up. It may be held down a little bit by some of your altcoin holdings. But if BTC slows down and altcoins start covering up in a big way, it will increase your BTC value of your portfolio and it will carry your portfolio up. So I think that's the best way to play the market right now, I guess. To have the right portfolio makeup. Now, if you're one of those that's always chasing, trust me, you're going to be losing. If you saw that ETH pumped up, well, let's just say Dogecoin for the last few days. If you saw Dogecoin pump up above a cent and it's at 1.5 cents and you're like, I'm going to jump all in on Dogecoin, right? It has retracted about 50% from its peak. You would have lost 50% of your value trying to chase that pump, right? Now, if you got in lower, great. But a lot of people would always try to jump on a bandwagon after the fact, and that's when you lose out on the most. Like this doesn't show you, because it shows Dogecoin still up 22%, but this does not show you how it came down from about 1.5 cents. So it actually did come down quite dramatically, right? So right now, I don't think it's time to jump on the Ethereum bandwagon like, oh, I better convert all my Bitcoin to Ethereum. That's when you're going to lose out. But if you want to, if you're say 100% in Bitcoin and you want to put a little bit in altcoins just to protect yourself, I would say that's the best way to do it, right? And just to give you guys a subtle reminder, because you guys, a lot of you guys are focused just like day to day or week to week. So if you're looking at CMC and you're like, okay, Ethereum is up 34% for the past week compared to 21% for Bitcoin, that's doing pretty good, right? That's pretty good. And same thing with Polkadot. Look at Polkadot's up 81% and Litecoin is up 14%. Those look pretty good for a past week, right? But what about if you go out a little bit? What about if you go past a month or past 3 months, right? Because the rally really started about 3 or 4 months ago. And you look at a past month change, Bitcoin is up 72%, Ethereum is at 57%. So is Ethereum really gaining on Bitcoin and has surpassed it? No, it has not. It still has about 20-something% left to go. Even Litecoin is pretty much dead even, right? Even Polkadot. Polkadot looks like it's on an insane run right now, right? But it's about 78% up for the past month. So that's roughly the same as Bitcoin. A little bit higher, right? So this is how you got to look at it. Don't always focus on such a short amount, because if you're chasing, you're going to be losing. The best way to do this is to dollar cost average, slowly get in. If you do have a lot of altcoins, it's okay to dollar cost average them, but the name of the game right now is still Bitcoin. That is not going to go away anytime soon, right? So just be careful, always trying to chase. And if you go back, you can look at some of these other altcoins like Cardano, it's up only 21% for the last month. Binance, Chainlink is down 6% for the entire month. So that's horrible, right? Stellar's down 27%. Celsius is up in a big way. I'm surprised by that. I thought Aave would go up a big way, but it looks like the momentum have shifted to Celsius. But a lot of these are down, right? If they're not in red, if they're not outperforming Bitcoin, then you're actually losing, right? So you got to be careful for that. Don't chase. Theta did kill it. I don't mean to just ignore, but Theta has been killing it. A lot of enthusiasm over their mainnet 3.0, but that's still a little bit down the road. Dogecoin, of course, has been killing it because of yesterday or the days before pump. Let's see if it can hold at 1 cent, because if you traditionally look at Dogecoin is fine. I'm not trying to dish on Dogecoin, but it just pumps up for no reason, and it pumps up anytime Elon Musk talks about it. So if Elon talks more about Dogecoin, it'll probably continue up. But if he doesn't, what tends to happen is this is going to fall down in a big way. I'm glad to see VeChain come up, though, because you guys know me. I've been supporting VeChain for a long time, up 50% last month. Not as good as Bitcoin, unfortunately, but let's see if VeChain can pick up some momentum from here. But so I guess what I'm saying is, just don't make rash decisions. Don't make rash decisions based on what happens over a day or even a week, right? Stay the course, dollar cost average, hodl, right? And that's really the name of the game. And just to refresh here, BTC dominance was as high as 72% yesterday. So because of Ethereum pump, Litecoin pump, all these pumps today, it went down to 70%. But keep in mind, it's still at 70%, right? And this number could easily climb up when Bitcoin pumps up next to 35,000, 40,000, which I'm thinking there's a really, really good chance that Bitcoin will hit 40,000 by Sunday, by this time next week. The rate that Bitcoin is increasing now is exponentially larger because the dollar amount is higher, right? Every 10% move now at 33,000 or 34,000 is $3,300. So to go from 33,000 to 40,000 is not that big. There's about 25% jump. And if you look at what has happened over the last few weeks, few months, it keeps continuing and it keeps accelerating. So it can move really, really quickly. So I'm looking forward to that. And I know a lot of you guys are too. All right. So I said a lot there. Let's do some Q&A. Colin, I don't know. That's a conundrum. I think a lot of us are in that same same situation. At what price do you think at what price of BTC do you think media will absolutely go crazy? I mean, they're starting to go crazy. Watch the headlines starting from tomorrow. You know, CNBC, CNN, wherever, Fox News, any kind of headlines. It's going to be nuts. It's starting to get more and more nutty. I don't think people, grasp the fact that we're at $33,000, right? When we were at 29,000, 27,000, I'm like, I don't think people have realized or grasped the weight of 30,000 Bitcoin. We're past that. We're 10% past that, right? So the media frenzy is going to increase and increase and increase. FOMO will increase, right? So this coming week, I don't know, because Bitcoin has seen such a big jump this weekend and altcoins too. I don't know at the beginning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if we're going to see such a jump. Maybe. But I'm thinking it's the same thing. We're going to see a gradual incline towards the next weekend, right? And then possibly Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're going to see a big jump once again, right? And it could be because PayPal, Square, and them are replenishing, but who knows? Maybe they replenish during the week. And Grayscale, the institutional investors, they're coming back. They're buying, right? The new year's over. We kind of just got past, right? We just got past Christmas and New Year's. Low volume, a lot of people on vacation, they're off, right? This is now the start of a full week, right? People are back. So who knows? We could see tremendous moves even starting from tomorrow. Brandon, appreciate that. I see a lot of you guys talking about Buffett. Hopefully you guys enjoy this clip. I mean, he just totally contradicted himself in the middle of his his explanation, right? Like he just 100% contradicted himself, and that's not a good thing. Donnie says end of February 74K. I'm not going to disagree with you there. I think BTC dominance will not correct, not for a while. We'll see periods. We'll see periods like this where, it could go down a few percentage points. When Bitcoin consolidates a little bit, we could see some good altcoin movement. But overall, BTC dominance, that's not going to stop. That's only going to increase. I would not be surprised, mid of 2021, the way Bitcoin is going, mid 2021 in June, if Bitcoin is at 100,000 already, BTC dominance could be in the 80 percentile, and that can increase. So I don't think we're going to see significant correction with BTC dominance for quite some time until true altcoin season, which may happen latter half of 2021. Blade Runner, thank you. What about Chinese New Year? Will we see a drop? I don't know. This year is different. You got to realize this year is completely different. You can't base this off of 3 years before where, first of all, it's crypto winter, and second of all, there was no institutional adoption, right? So Chinese New Year this year could be very, very positive for Bitcoin. It could be very positive overall, right? This year, 2021 is so different. Yes, it's the year after the halving event, right? Yes, it's the 4-year cycle, but I was just telling someone in my Patreon group that this may be the last cycle we ever see for Bitcoin. There's no reason to think that there are going to be more cycles after this because Bitcoin's price could just stay at whatever level it ends up and only build from there. And that's it. It never comes down. Yes, I mean, I guess there's still a 4-year cycle in terms of there's a halving event. You know, they're saying a halving event every 4 years, but in terms of this 85% dip down and then it starts over, that may never come again. You know, what we experienced this year, earlier last year, could be the last time we see any kind of significant drop to Bitcoin. Could be. Could be. I just don't see how these institutional investors will sell off significantly when they're all holding for 5 to 10 years. That's the reason why I think that. So 2021 and beyond could be very, very different than all the previous years before. So, and in a good way, not in a bad way, in a good way. I know. Think about it. Think about what's happening already now. With 28,000 produced per month and Grayscale alone purchasing 3 times the amount, by the time Bitcoin goes through a next halving event in 2024, right, this number will be cut to 14,000 per month. Okay? And this number will probably be at like $1 million per month. The way this is going, the way this is increasing, well, no, at some point it'll stop. It won't go up exponentially because Bitcoin will be so expensive then. So, but just think about it, right? 4 years, as this increases, as Bitcoin's price increases, as this decreases, man, I mean, just do the math. It's simple supply and demand. By the next halving event, Bitcoin be at 400,000, and then afterwards, it's go ahead to $1 million, right? So that could be what's going to happen. So, I mean, it's just, we can't even guess at this point. You could throw out large numbers. A lot of people have. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen at the next halving event? James E, don't you feel in the world of whole numbers, new people who FOMO into space will not appreciate buying 0.05 Bitcoin? They'll look for alternatives. Yes, that's a good point. I think psychologically, a lot of new people coming in, they go look at Bitcoin. They're like, I want one of something. I don't want one of Bitcoin, right? So I think that's true. That's why I think something like Litecoin is going to go up. That's why I created a video about Litecoin, even though I don't like what Charlie Lee did, but you got to think about it logically. It's still $100 something. It's cheapest compared to a lot of these, even Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin, obviously, on a lot of exchanges, right? Not the cheapest. Of course, you could get Ripple or something like that. But I'm talking about a lot of these fiat exchanges now. When you go in, a lot of them, you know, they display the main 4, right? And Litecoin is one of them. So I do think that plays into it. People will try to get whole numbers, try to buy cheaper altcoins. But what's going to end up happening is once they buy it and then they see it doesn't move, you know, you could buy something cheap. You could buy 100 of something, but day after day after day, they're looking at their portfolio and they're realizing the USD value is not really moving. And then they see how Bitcoin keeps moving, right? I think it's still going to convert a lot of them to Bitcoin. But I do think there's a valid point there. I do think a lot of altcoins will go up as retail FOMO increases. You're going to see a lot more buying. But, you know, like everything else, you know, you always think that, hey, you might, I guess, what do you say? Like the grass is greener on the other side, right? So a lot of people that get in, they go like, well, can I buy something better? Can I buy something that is going to increase in value faster? And then go compare it to everything else, and then they're going to come to a conclusion that Bitcoin moves faster than everything else, and then they're going to go back to Bitcoin, right? So, Claudio, I kind of did. I mentioned about VeChain coming up 25% and overall 50% over last month. You know, I kind of gave a blanket statement. Like right now, you know, a lot of alts are doing good because Bitcoin is taking a breather, and it should take a breather because it has just absolutely been killing it for a very long time. So this breather may last a day. It may last a few days, but the last breather only lasted 2 days. So, and this has only been a day. So maybe it lasts until tomorrow, or maybe it doesn't. It just pumps up tonight, right? But whenever you have breather periods, generally money flows out into altcoins. So I think if you want to explore a possibility of holding more altcoins, right? Good portfolio makeup, I would say 75% in Bitcoin, 25% in alts, right? Could be made up of Ethereum, Cardano, VeChain, some of these bigger players that are moving relatively well, Litecoin I mentioned, right? But don't try to chase. Don't try to chase and say, oh, I'm going to change all my Bitcoin to Ethereum because it's pumping now, right? And guess what's going to happen? Right when you do that, Ethereum is going to start coming down and Bitcoin's going to go up. And then you're going to lose out. You don't want to chase. Almost 2,000 people watching. A little bit under, but still a lot of people. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you smash up the like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of my live streams or videos. I've been doing a lot of live streams recently, as you guys have noticed. One yesterday, one today. That's because there's just so much going on with Bitcoin and crypto, right? So I can't help myself, and I think you guys are excited too. But make sure you hit that subscribe button. A lot more this week. This coming week, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's my usual streaming time. But I'm going to have a lot more segments too that I think you guys will enjoy. Time DJ, welcome. Blade Runner, yesterday, I think it was like 2,300 viewers. A lot. If you do not hold a Dogecoin, you're missing out. The only reason why I would hold Dogecoin is because of Elon. Because he keeps tweeting it out. So I'm waiting. I'm not getting in right now. It's way too high. But if Dogecoin falls down significantly, I would pick up a few just for the Elon effect. Because he's been increasing his tweets about Dogecoin. But ultimately, what I'm really looking forward to, and I think it's going to happen, like within the next month, you're going to hear a lot more CEOs of major corporations announce that they're going to be buying Bitcoin with their reserves. And I think Elon is going to be one of them. I think you're going to hear a lot more publicly traded companies announce that they're fearful of inflation. They're fearful of uncertain economic, tsunami that's coming. So they're going to be looking at parking their reserve currency in something like Bitcoin. I think that's coming. And it's going to be an avalanche of more buying. So, yeah, watch out for that. All right, guys, that is it. Thanks for tuning in. As always, smash the like, subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Also, if you want a crash course on Bitcoin, check out my Teachable course. And lastly, I do have Patreon. If you want to support me and chat with me and others and get some exclusive content, then check out my Patreon page. All the links are in the description in case you're looking for them. And if you're looking for exchanges or anything else, I have the links in the description as well. All right, until tomorrow, guys, take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.